Welcome to Wealthy and Wise with Kerry Sainsbury. This is where we uncover the secrets to financial success and personal growth. I'm Kerry Sainsbury, your host on this journey to mastering wealth and wisdom. Each episode, we'll dive deep into practical tips, insightful discussions, and inspiring stories from experts and thought leaders. Get ready to transform your mindset, elevate your financial IQ, and live a life of abundance. Let's dive in. Monique, so good to have you on my podcast. Can you believe it? We're doing it.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so thrilled to be here, for this to have come to reality and to be on your second episode. I feel very, very special.
I just feel like it couldn't be anyone else, right?
Oh,
so for all listeners listening, Monique is my wonderful business coach and you've helped me so much. Thank you. Monique, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Monique Harding, and as Kerry said, I am a business coach. I'm also a therapist though, which is a really interesting combination. So I have that psychology background. I specialize in coaching from mainly a mindset perspective, but also in really helping service-based business owners understand themselves better, explore themselves, their resistance, different perspectives to feel more fulfillment, make more impact, and generate more wealth within their businesses.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. And I guess everyone heard sort of my story on the first episode of sort of, the industry I've been in and how long and sort of how I've got where I've got now. So I would love to hear, I obviously know, but I would love for you to share, I guess, your story, because obviously, so much experience and education yourself.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's always interesting in knowing where to start with these kind of stories, isn't it? It's like, well, have I kind of always been, molding myself or developing to lead to where I am today? And if I think back in my working career, I started out after school working in a HR consulting firm. Back then I was always really driven, really ambitious. I was 18 at the time. And I was fortunate that they put me through my first double degree, so business and psychology. And I did that whilst working full time. So it was a slog, but obviously learned a lot, about the leadership space, about management, about people, connected teams, and just loved really that organizational psychology side of things. So to be honest, I always thought that would be my, long-term career. I was really fulfilled there. I started working then in a more of a mining and gas, oil and gas organization. And that was probably one of the biggest turning points for me, actually, looking back. I took on the role thinking that it was going to be more around strategy and culture change and really meaningful, org psych activities. And what I ended up doing was really just managing sexual harassment claims. And what that gave me was a real passion for working with women and social justice within the workplace and elevating women's voices. So I guess I spoke a bit too loud in that organization and I exited, and it was the best thing I ever did. I moved to LA. I lived in South America for a little while. I did my yoga teacher training and kind of had like a bit of a quarter life crisis, I guess. But then led me to go back and study clinically. So to do my master's, well, a couple of masters actually, in family therapy and sociology. So that was, I guess, then the movement into something, just seeking something a bit deeper, wanting to connect with people at, more in terms of like, what's actually stopping people from thriving and unpacking human behavior and, the relationships that we're in with business, but with, our environment, with our families, etc. I built my own private practice after working in the healthcare system for a while. And I still have that today. So I have a practice in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. And that kind of just basically, runs itself now. It's been going for about 7-8 years. And I spend the majority of my time now coaching other women. So I've sort of integrated my past history with this deep exploration piece that I've got from the psychology background. And yeah, it's come together to really help women thrive more in business and thrive more in life and, feel ultimately more fulfilled.
That is so awesome. I've just learned, I didn't realize you're a yoga teacher.
Yeah, yeah, Bikram.
Cool. I don't know if you know, I'm a Pilates, I think I've said to you, I'm a Pilates teacher, which I still instruct once a week. That's so cool.
Yeah, I don't teach it all anymore, but
Yeah.
I managed a couple of yoga studios actually whilst I was studying my master's. So that was kind of like what kept me busy during that time.
It's funny, like it's maybe like we need that, right? To be able to succeed in business.
Yeah,
Like maybe, that's calmed the mind and helped us sort of grow, maybe. Isn't that funny?
absolutely. I have such strong opinions on that, the way you start your day. And I know you and I are very similar in that we're both early risers, that, it's body before biz kind of mentality of, really regulating your nervous system in the morning and depositing there is going to help you feel so much more clarity and really take more of the actual like important needle moving activity within your business rather than just being reactive and getting absorbed in emails or whoever the first phone call is.
I think it's been a game changer for me because us as women, we take on so much, don't we, without releasing it. We take it all in and think we're Wonder Woman and we keep going and feel like we're not doing enough. But then when you prioritize yourself, get up early, go and do a workout, go for a walk, eat better. It's such a game changer.
Yeah, and I think, it feeds into those deeper beliefs, right? Like I'm always thinking about that interconnection of how our behavior and, the choices that we're making, which are often unconscious, right? But regardless, it's still us engaging in behavior, whether that's to go and do your Pilates class or whether that's for you to get up and, do something for someone else is the first thing that you do in the morning. Like that is sending a message to your belief system and informing your identity of who you are in this world, right? And I
Mm.
think so many women, particularly the women that I coach, they're these incredible business powerhouses, yet they have such self-sacrificial tendencies that when we start to explore, why they might be feeling a bit unfulfilled or why their business isn't really, reflecting their strengths, it's because they're just on this like robotic churn of serving everyone else around them and not depositing it all to the things that bring them pleasure.
Is that what you see a lot? Like, especially obviously you work with a lot of successful businesswomen.
Mm.
Is that what you see a lot in terms of that self-doubt and that fear? Like, do you find that it's like a few little tweaks and then it's like, wow, like this woman just, skyrockets?
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly common themes, right? Like if I coached back to back in a day with all of my clients, there would be crossovers in the conversations, no doubt. And I guess two of the core things that I would say that I see, one would be what I refer to as unrelenting standards. So this pervasive sense of never feeling good enough, of not ever having enough time, of not ever feeling like they're achieving enough in their day, they're supporting their team enough, they're doing enough, they're a good enough parent. There's like always this like real self-critical lens that tends to come in. And I think that's a societal thing, right? Like that's not a Kerry thing, that's not a Monique thing. That's like how we're kind of raised collectively. And the other would be, this beautiful need to, be service-based, to, look after others, which I think of as on a continuum, right? That's a great thing to have. It's great to be concerned about other people. It's great to want to make an impact. When I start to see that becoming a bit of an issue is when we are entering into more of that self-sacrificial territory, right? Of where people are starting to burn out and they're churning the wheels and they're not creating that space within their diary, within their lives to do the things that really fill their cup and sustain them, because they're the last person that they're kind of thinking of in terms of needs.
So funny because as a society, we're trained to work 9 to 5. We're trying to work, work, work.
Yeah.
But then, and I would love for you to explain this to me, then I've realized as I've grown, I've realized it's also my mindset and my energy and my work-life balance and all those little things that you don't actually think you should be doing
Yeah.
seem to make such a difference and impact within your business,
Yeah.
within everything.
100%. It's so fascinating. There was a book that I read a few years ago now. It's called 4,000 Weeks. And it's basically about society's obsession with productivity. And it talks about, the introduction of this 9 to 5, mentality of trading kind of time for money. And, that was all around factory workers. And it was introduced because we needed to bring large collective groups of people on the same time schedule in order to get tasks done. Now, I don't know about you. Well, I kind of do know about you. So I've got I know a lot about you.
Daily.
We talk every day.
Yeah.
But, within your business, you're not really required to be on from 9 to 5. Right? Yes, you are required to, make calls, to connect with people, to service your clients. However, your efficiency over the years with how much experience that you have, you would be getting things done now at your level of expertise that past Kerry 10 years ago probably took 2-3 times the amount of time, right? And so I think sometimes we get lost in this outdated concept of like incremental growth of like, okay, well, I've got to do more in order to grow my business. When I work in this field of anything being possible, and we're kind of talking a bit more energetics here, but when we lean into possibility energy and we kind of play with psychology and mindset and perspective, we start to realize that growth is actually exponential. You could make a phone call tomorrow that could double your business, right? And that doesn't involve you working any harder. And that's when it starts to get really fun, right? Like that's when you start to get really excited about what it looks like to create success. And that will often come when you're more regulated, right? That will come when you've gone to your Pilates class, when you've gone and had like your beautiful long lunch and you just so happen to chat with the person at the table next to you and make a new connection out of the blue because you gave yourself that opportunity to be a little bit more spacious.
Crazy. And I know for me, especially, I used to live in so much fear of like that self-doubt. What's it called? I'm trying to think of the word.
Imposter syndrome?
Yes. And I think that's so relevant for so many people. Like the more everyone I speak to has that imposter syndrome, that we don't feel like we're able to get to that next level, but it is for everyone, right? Like we can all get there.
I have so many opinions, Kerry, on this imposter syndrome thing. I actually recorded, I think it was a 40-minute podcast on it.
I can imagine.
Unpacking it all, right? You know me, I love to go deep.
Yeah.
I hate the language for starters. Syndrome implies that there's something wrong with you, and that then creates this resistance. Whereas when we realize that this is kind of part of our psychological makeup, to compare, to contrast, as a highly driven individual, it's very rare that you will ever feel like you have achieved enough, done enough. That then almost like frees us a little bit from it, right? And I also think that so much of what we refer to as this imposter syndrome, as this like self-doubt, is created and caused by a lack of frequency looking in our rear view mirror and harvesting the gold from our past. I cannot think of a conversation that I've had with one of my clients in the last 6 months where they have come to me in fear, in self-doubt, where we have not been able to find a similar example, whether that's from them being a parent, whether that's from them owning a separate business, whether that's from a total other area of their life, but a similar example of that they could generate some knowledge, some skill, some confidence from, and apply it to the current sticky situation that they're feeling doubtful about moving forward in. So I think sometimes we just struggle with that integration piece of past to present, right? We start to see these sticky, tough situations in front of us as like we've never been there before, when rarely anything's new in this life, right? Like it's just typically like more of the same, but dressed up in a different fancy coat.
That's crazy. You make it sound so simple.
Oh.
But isn't it funny? We just can live in our heads and our thoughts so much.
Yeah, but I think that's the power of having a coach as well, right? Like it's not that anybody needs coaching. Like you are an incredibly intelligent, capable, amazing human being. Like you do not need me as your coach. You want me as your coach, right? Like you want that next level of of perspective, of openness, of like expanding your identity, knowing that that is what's going to help you succeed more. Yeah, I think it's fascinating once you start to dive into it though, right? Like what's actually possible. It's just we see life through these blinkers.
Yeah, like I know if I'm having a bad day, I'll sort of message you and then you'll talk me through it. And then I realize, well, nothing's really that wrong, Kerry. Like,
And it's funny though, because without that, you might have stayed in it a really long time though, right? That could have affected you for like not, it probably wouldn't have knowing you,
yeah.
but for other clients, I know like before us working together, they've said, that would have like had a flow on effect for a month. And yet we've just moved through it in 5 minutes. Wild.
Yeah. And I think it's when someone sort of speaks to you and you sort of see that, like you get given that clarity. That's how it works for me. I see that clarity and it's everything else in your head. It's not quite true. So
exactly.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm so glad that we could have chatted and that you're on my episode number 2 and you're my business coach. Thank you for everything you've done for my business.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And where can our listeners get hold of you if they're sort of thinking and pondering, looking at a business coach themselves to succeed even further in their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to connect. So if you want to check out my stuff, you can still jump over onto my Instagram, which is at Monique Harding _. However, I am about to have a little bit of a social experiment time off that platform. So I'd also just head to my website. You can contact me there. We can have a chat, moniqueharding.co.
Monique's highly recommended by myself, of course. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Kerry.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us today on Wealthy and Wise with Kerry Sainsbury. Let's continue to grow together in wealth and wisdom. Until next time, remember to sprinkle kindness, share wisdom, and embrace every opportunity. Stay tuned and stay fabulous.